Welcome to another episode of A Dram with Friends. I am happy to have Dominic D'Souza joining me in the pub today. Welcome, Dominic.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Well, we weren't sure what you'd have if you were in the pub here, as I couldn't find my brandies. I think they're upstairs. I thought I'd get a Rest and Be Thankful whiskey because that
Oh,
seemed
nice.
like a good theme for us today.
hmm
and and it's a good whiskey.
Nice.
So for those that don't know who Dominic D'Souza, who is Dominic?
Oh, goodness. Um, Probably in order of importance. Husband, dad, nerd, um, works at Heroic Men. Yeah. So I'm somebody who's a bit of an accidental world traveler in that my parents traveled around a bunch when we were young. And now that I've gotten married, just for whatever work reasons or something, or just sometimes health reasons, continue to move around. So we've now clocked in, I don't know, over 25, 30 different moves. And so I'm somebody who's trying to let the moss grow under my feet, find that white picket fence, um, find a hobbit home. Um, we've now just moved, as of this past month, into a new home. We've been able to buy one. I actually watched it being built from the bones up from our townhome that we were in. And we're hoping to be here for at least a minute and try to get that feeling of setting down roots, feeling a bit stable. Um, yeah. So I was born in New Zealand, raised in Australia. I went to school in Fiji and then also in France. And I've been in the United States for, maybe 15 years now.
Wow. So a world traveler. I was going to say I can encourage you in that, as I did a lot of moves, not quite the number of you've done growing up, and and then my wife and I, same thing, got married, living in Brooks, then moved into Calgary, and then to another place, and then to another place, and finally we've been in this house now 26 years. So there is hope. And I
Yeah.
was about you, not much different in age than you when that happened. So just there is hope that, and I don't want to move, contrary to my wife's wanting to maybe downsize a bit, but
hmm
I'm comfortable. I'll let my kids move me.
Yeah. Or pay a nice moving team to come in and just handle it all.
Yeah. So what led you all over the world? Like, why? That's quite an upbringing. New Zealand and
Uh,
Australia.
yeah. I think my dad, he loved travel. He traveled to multiple countries before he got married, and he continued to teach languages, and then phased from that into being a public speaker, and he ran radio shows and uh, started his own ministry, and so he started in New Zealand. That's where I was born, and then he was routinely. I think he went wherever the work was, or wherever he could hunt down the work. And so, of course, the family went after him. So we weren't military brats, but we were kind of like not pastors' brats, but ministers or something. And there were eight of us. By the time we got to Australia, my last brother was born there, and I mean, we were probably a little bit feral, and as kids, biking everywhere, getting into everything we're not supposed to be getting into. I look back and I don't know how my parents stayed sane with everything that they had to do going on. I don't know how they afforded anything, but somehow he did. I can understand why he became the workaholic that he was. I'm now trying to be a bit more aware of that because it just makes sense to be a workaholic when everything's on you. And I think it was on him for a lot. After a while, things dried up or opportunities changed or whatever in Australia, and he tried to get a position teaching in the diocese, I think, in Fiji. So we lived there for about maybe 6 months, and then We tried going to Europe. He tried to start a ministry there, and so we all went to a boarding school in France, and he got a teaching position there, and tried to expand out into Europe. And that after about a year, the visa situation didn't work, and we couldn't stay for. I was too young to know how the details worked and all that. So then we all came back home to the United States, and I say home because that's where my mom's from. He was from Brazil. She's from America, and it always felt like coming back home for us. And we've been able to stay here for about, well, 15 years. About 10 years ago. No, this is 13 years ago. I did a 6-month stint down in Sydney and then worked there and then flew back. And uh, sort of reminded me that as much as I liked the work, I like being in America more. There's just the vibe or just what the thing that America is. I love that. I like being here. And we can lump
And
North America into all of that. So, yeah.
and like obvious, you're a very creative individual from the work I've done with you here at Heroic Men, and you're such a gift to our organization. Where did that bug come from? Where did that
Well, that's very kind of you.
creativity?
Hmm. That's a good question. It has been something from very, very early on. I'm trying to think of if there are any causes to it. Um, I can't think of any immediate causes other than always wanting to be active, always enjoying doing things. There are specific things I remember. I remember when we were really, really young, back when my dad had more time for us because there were only two kids. He would get us books from the library, um, especially on ancient Egypt. And then he would doodle Spartan helmets on the telephone pad by the door or by the phone. And we used to try to copy, I used to try to copy that all the time. And then we had a photocopier. And then I learned I could photocopy anything I wanted when they weren't looking. And so I could do more coloring pictures or I could, stuff like that from library books. And then we would go to the library. I remember that every Friday. And then afterwards we'd go to a little cafe and we'd get croissants and ginger ale. No, gingerade. This is in New Zealand. And he loved books. He loved ancient culture. He loved movies. And so I loved those too. And then as I got older, I discovered, well, I can actually start drawing anything I want. And so I became sort of the in-house artist for like everything. If it's a birthday or a holiday, my mom's not going out and buying Christmas cards for family and friends around the world. She's like, Dominic, you draw them. You make all of the cards and stuff. And so um, come high school, or no, actually, by the time I hit 13, I was loving writing and I loved writing novels. And so I wrote my first novel at 13. And that opened a door where I realized, oh my gosh, I can ideate and create. And this is incredible. And then I couldn't get off the bug of writing stories and planning all kinds of novels. I've been doing that. It's my first love, is doing that. But I hit high school. And at that point, my dad needed help with the family business. We were here in the United States at the time. And at that point, he took a trip to Europe for something to reconnect with people or some business or something. And he used to have a Dutchman who drove a cab and smoked incessantly till his teeth fell out, named Bodie. And he lived in Australia and he handled the website. And then he passed. And so
Oh,
his wife mailed us the CD drive or the CDs. And my dad's like, "You've got 2 weeks. You got to figure out how to fix my website because I got to update that thing. And we need graphic design, and I can't keep hiring somebody else." And so while they were gone, I remember sitting at that table in the kitchen and then just leafing through this Bible of a book on how to understand building websites from scratch and then installing the stuff and then testing it, and realized I like graphic design a lot. It's basically like painting, but and drawing and sketching comics, which I already enjoyed doing. But now I can do that by like cutting out cool pictures and mashing them together. And I can, what was especially cool was being able to do that. And then almost instantly, because he needed product immediately, was to print off CD labels and print off jackets for his things and then take them to the events or the conferences. And then I would man those tables and sell them. And then we'd do posters and pull up banners and start doing emails. And so there was a lot of demand and a lot of need for this. And then around the same time, my siblings were like, I don't want to work for the family business. I want to get out of here. I'm sick of this family. I want out. I want jobs elsewhere. And so I dropped out of college after a year and basically took all of their responsibilities from them, I expected to take the family business over myself. So it wasn't really that much of a sacrifice. It was hard work, but it kind of freed them up to go out. And so I learned to do all of basically everything that ran the back end of running a business. So databases and emails and, some accounting. Mostly my mom did that. But following up with people, handling accounts, and trying to ideate, how do I make this thing self-sufficient when my dad's not around? And stuff happened, things fell through. Like I said, I then went and took that job down in Sydney. And then when I came back, that's when I met my wife, or girlfriend, then became my wife. And at that point, realized that I had to make a decision, do something different. The family business wasn't going to work out anymore. And kind of struck out on my own and got lucky. And somebody landed me a gig at one place and then got hired out of that. And then just sort of kept bouncing until um, my predecessor at Heroic Men grabbed me during, I don't know, early to mid pandemic to come work as his associate. And then I've been with Heroic Men ever since. So, in terms of creativity, to answer your question, it's because I couldn't stop. And then now that I got older and I can figure out, oh, there's more tools and I can do more good and have a lot more fun. That's kind of my challenge now. What's the maximal amount of fun and good that I can do in the time that I have? Not just because it pleases me and I enjoy doing it, but because I can also see the impact it has on other people, brings them life and hope. They get to do more of, what inspires them. I think that's a good, big reason why we're here, is to help each other out like that.
That's awesome. All right, what was the title of the novel when you were 13? Do you remember still?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I republished that thing. I'm going to republish it again before this Christmas because I wrote a sequel when I was 16 and I never released that. So I'm just put them all together and give it away. It's called The Ring of Fantasy. And
Okay.
I'd not read Lord of the Rings. So after I did, I was like, oh, dang it, rings. But I'd grown up on Narnia. And so I wanted to go to Narnia. I'm a very much of a Narnian kid. That was my whole imagination as a kid. Um, and this story was funny. It was it's one of those things where when you're too close to something, you have no idea what's actually going on inside you. And I'd read all of these stories and novels about kids going and rescuing each other, and their brothers rescuing sisters and sisters rescuing brothers. Fairy tales are thick with this sort of thing. And I remember thinking, huh, I don't really love my sister very much. Now, again, I was 13. I wish I did. And so I thought, well, what if I could create a story where I could go rescue, or a boy went to rescue his sister, and I think I didn't know what I was doing at the time. As I look back, I realized it's exactly what I was doing. I was feeling through the experience of actually caring for somebody so deeply that I would sacrifice everything and go on this massive, dangerous, extremely adventurous thing with horses that burned. I took lots of things out of the Book of Revelation. I took things out of Narnia, dwarves and, talking horses and stuff, talking animals, and had this boy go on this great adventure and rescue his sister. And so that was the first novel, The Ring of Fantasy.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Would you consider doing playwright? I'm
What is that? Tell me more.
well, I'm been intrigued or interested. As you know, we commissioned the Litany of Saint Joseph,
Hmm.
which I have no musical background talent, but God can do miracles with inspiration, right?
Hmm.
And so one of the things that I've picked up over the last number of years is that there's that attracted a lot of the arts people into interest in what we're doing. And
Hmm.
so often as we build out like heroic men, we tend to focus on the sports analogies and sports heroes, but that doesn't reach
Hmm.
a segment of the population, because you do have those
Hmm.
men that love the arts and
Right.
love the
Oh, kind of like me. I'm a complete sports heretic myself. I have no idea about anything that's going on with it all. We were never
yeah.
raised with it, so I never got into it.
So, but you have this love of literature and writing and adventure. So why wouldn't we try to create avenues to, or roadways to get you in to
Hmm.
brotherhood and heroic men? So what's been on my mind since we did the litany is is having a play maybe about Saint Joseph,
Oh, how
and
cool.
you know, that terror of demons, so that you can do a stage production of that. And
Hmm.
maybe if it's successful, then you, who knows, we could end up on Broadway. But
That's really quite cool.
it's
So it similar to that, where so far my inspiration has been, as I'm looking at the job, trying to think what are things that I would like to see in the Heroic Men universe to try to appeal to more people. And of course, um, because I love movies and storytelling, I think that's a pretty universal thing. Most of us, when we're not doing our hobbies, we're relaxing and we're getting into a show. And so, as somebody who loves and writes novels, um, I like to solve problems with storytelling. Um, that's one reason why I wrote this book called Hero Theory that takes about, I forget how many I did, maybe 25 different short stories of different figures and characters, and try to identify what made them heroic, at least in my opinion, and try to retell their stories in ways that are really interesting to get you to relook at the heroism active in their life and then get practical and find a way to apply it in some small way to your own life. Well, I like your idea about a play. I've not written plays, um, but you know what could be actually sort of as an idea as you're kicking it around. One of the things that we did do as kids, my parents didn't really let us spend a lot of time on the computer. Now, again, it was the 90s. There wasn't as much to do on the computer in the early 2000s. So they got us a video camera so that we could go make our own movies. And we spent all of our free time trying to make movies. So, yeah, there was a lot of scripting in that sense. Okay, yes, we made movies. We ended up filming an entire 55-minute movie as kids. We grabbed a couple of other friends. We went out in the deep woods. It was a whole fantasy story. My brother made all of the costumes. He made all of the swords. They blocked out all of the action. It was very heavy on the action because there's 5 boys. The girls all looked absolutely beautiful in costumes and all this because why not? And that was a massive project, multiple levels of editing, and totally ripping the music out of Last of the Mohicans. And it was filmed in somewhere in Pennsylvania, upstate PA. Um, well, as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, it'd be really cool actually. There's a lot of homeschoolers, a lot of young people out there. What if you were to create a contest, create a short 5-10 minute story about Saint Joseph on the way to somewhere, or some short story from his life, and send it in. Um, Create a gallery of kids or youth creating content like this. Get them to lean in and do something creative. I have
yeah,
no idea
that's
what kind of thing could come from that, but it'd be fun.
yeah, that sounds very interesting. And when you were talking about that, my kids did a lot of that stuff where it wasn't as elaborate as what you're describing, but like I remember my boys with their two friends, uh, well, Tim O'Connor and myself are running a men's conference, and the boys poke their head in, but then they're out in the barbecue trailer filming The Beast, and like they had this,
Nice.
yeah, it's good to allow kids to explore that creativity, and just because what happens is it's so easy to get sucked into the world, as it were,
Hmm.
where you have your own thoughts when you're creating your own content, right?
Hmm.
And
I think something
it,
happens when you're given permission and encouraged to be creative. You start to realize something about the world, that it is the kind of thing that is, well, this is maybe to us, especially as guys, I think maybe how we think, but the world is made to be or can be receptive to your creativity, to what you want to put out. And when you do cool stuff, it can work. And if you play that game enough times, you can begin to get a sense of confidence that I can do things with or without permission, with or without a budget, which is a bit of sort of my point of pride. How can I get anything I want to do done without a budget, without permission, as fast as possible? And so you end up having to play test a lot of tools and a lot of opportunities constantly, which is one reason, or many reasons, why I run multiple side projects and usually end up in doing that, bring stuff over to Heroic Men, because I tried to solve a problem for one of these and realized, oh, it actually works really well for my day job. And so I can bring that back over and hopefully be more helpful for the day job. But it's because it's coming from a state of play, which is a bit like risk without consequences. Um, uh, there's a lot that you can learn when you're in love with what you're doing and when you're enjoying that. That's why I think it's pretty vital to encourage kids um, to be creative, to do things. Uh, the other thing on top of this is, like right now, it is the most absolutely insanely incredible era to be able to be creative right now, especially for kids. For example, like we're talking about this contest or this video thing. You now have AI video generators. I have no idea what that could do for homeschool video projects. I've frankly not tested it myself because I don't have the money to pay for all the credits because it can be expensive. But even if you do just a little bit, my goodness, what could you do? I have no idea. It's relatively affordable, in fact, very affordable to now create your own music. You can create your own soundtracks. So I've done that, and I put a soundtrack on Heroic Men of just epic music to pray through the key prayers, that matter to me, as a man. So you can not only create your own project, you can get AI to help you create specific things that you can't do because of time or limitations or something. I think it's one of the most important things we can do is not only give kids a great education, but also encourage them to get into their bodies and do things that's creative and platform that. We need that kind of ideation. We need that kind of, I believe that the people who build the future are the ones who dream first. They dream up the future the rest of us get to live in. Future's got a lot of villains in it already. We need to be empowering and encouraging kids to dream boldly and build boldly and make mistakes more boldly and do good more boldly.
That's awesome. And what you were talking about earlier reminded me, Dr. Leonard Sachs had written a book called Boys Adrift, and in there he speaks a bit about how, like the arts and stuff like that, a lot of the guys would shy away from taking those courses because they identified it as feminine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whereas in a proper built all boys school, you weren't associated as a girly thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Well, look at like mega movies, right? Marvel, Lord of the
yeah,
Rings, Dune, whatever these movies are. I don't think there are any guys who would look at those and go, yeah, those are girly. So with whatever these literature, these projects are, I don't think we're picking the right stories because Gladiator, The Last Samurai, Batman Begins, right? These movies, they've formed a generation of men and given us a collective kind of identity and sort of a fandom for masculinity. It's not all perfect, but neither are we. And we look at those and we love those. We find our identity, our masculinity in them. So frankly, we just need better stories or better projects to work on together. Um, Look at the number of extras who show up for movies just so that they could die gloriously on camera or get into battles and fight. I think we're seeing a rise. This is what fascinates me along these lines. It's my impression, but we're seeing a rise of people playing tabletop games like Dungeons and
yep.
Dragons. It's just on the rise because we want to live in better stories. And sometimes storytelling is the only thing you can do to play test yourself in environments that you would never actually live in or ever actually experience. I've got this working theory, right? Which is most people are going to do simple things with their lives, and that is their glory. They are fantastic at doing one thing and they do it well. The downsides to that is it's like playing one level of a game or listening to only one story. You're going to be maybe fantastic at that, put you outside of that comfort zone, and you probably collapse. Or put you in a variety of changing situations, you're going to have a very hard time adapting because you didn't train yourself to adapt or you're not built to adapt. But then you get something like more of the middle class, I guess like you and me now, where we're separated from a degree of taking big rocks and making them into little rocks, or spending all day hammering one thing into another thing or pressing things into other things, and a lot of sort of mindless manual labor. The rest of us who are in the sort of the middle class, we now have an opportunity to build up um, our ability to know and adapt and expand to a lot more circumstances. And so if you're in that sort of bracket of culture, you need a ton more stories. In fact, you need a lot more stories to kind of play test yourself. A bit like a game or multiple games to figure out what is the best way to respond, who am I, what do I think, how do I interact with other people, and you need to do this across multiple different situations, multiple different stories, because you're going to be meeting kinds of different situations and stories because you probably travel a lot, you move around a lot, you meet with a lot of people. So you need to be an extremely adaptable kind of thing, um, so that you don't get bowled over and left behind. You have to be a functional, resilient member of society. You need a lot more storytelling. And so that's why stuff like D&D continues to be something that people can understand. Oh, it's another way to learn that's very embodied. Honestly, it's a function, I think, from the mystery schools, from ancient human thing. It's a very Ignatian practice to imagine yourself very deeply and actively in a situation and then do it with a group of friends towards a specific goal. It's not just something you do with Dungeons and Dragons. You do it with anything, with the Ignatian exercises as well. But we're seeing a lot of people get into cosplay. It's the same thing, or people doing those weekend retreats where they all get together and reenact battle sequences or reenact living at different times. I think these things are getting bigger or are more and more popular because we have better tools, better equipment, better access to make it more immersive and more exciting. As the modern culture keeps looking at us or telling you, you don't matter, you're an embarrassment to be alive. Life becomes more boring and meaningless. We keep turning to all of these more imaginative things. And I don't think that's stupid. I think it's actually the only thing that's keeping us sane, because I believe that stories are how our souls stay alive. Our body eats food to live. Our souls exist on stories, and you need a lot of them to navigate the modern world.
Some of the stuff you talked about there was what came to mind was scenario, like as a police officer, we'd play different scenarios in our brain. How am I going to react? That because you don't know what situation you're going into, so you have to work through, as you say, these stories. Okay, what, and it helps you when you are in that situation because you've played it through your mind, right?
Right.
And I was telling our bishop that he needs to maybe do some tabletop exercises with his priest. Like, okay,
Right.
you got 150 people wanting to join your church. What are you going to do? Like, until they start playing out these ideas and stories
Mm-hmm.
and vocalizing them and looking at them from outside,
Yep.
you're never going to be prepared
Mm-hmm.
when you actually have to do with it, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember I used to absolutely hate it when my dad would try to train me because he wanted me to be a speaker like him when I was a kid. And funnily enough, I sort of ended up kind of doing that, or at least being more comfortable being on camera and talking to people. But I used to absolutely hate it when he would uh, uh, sort of challenge me or make me run through lines for how to talk to people or how to engage with them. And I would go, I think I understand in my head, but then actually having until I practiced with him, hello, here, this is, what we would do a lot as a way of marketing is pass out pamphlets at the cathedral on Sunday. And so we'd go to mass and then we would drive up to the cathedral. And sometimes if it was a big event, we would hit all the major masses and he'd get, four of us boys and himself all grab a door and we're just passing out pamphlets like candy and say, hi, this is for you. This is for you. Please come to the event. We'd love to see you there. And I was very much an introvert as a kid, hated talking to people. And so he kind of trained that out of me by putting me up on stage, having me run events and host things, and ended up getting more comfortable with it. But until there was those moments where you're in the living room going, practice, you actually say it. Don't just think it in your head, actually say it. And then you become more comfortable, exactly as you're saying. I saw a video recently of, I think it's the Blue Angels, and how they're sitting around a table and they're simply visualizing, practicing going through the flight. And it's a bit funny. You watch them leaning over and they pretend to grab the throttle, I guess it's called. And he goes, okay, we're taking it down two. And then everybody nods and they take it down two. And they're just moving their hands in the air. Okay, everybody goes left and they all angle a bit left. And they're just playing through everything in their mind as intensely as possible so that when they get in the actual moment, they've done it. They've practiced it. Or it's
Yeah.
like, people who play like basketball or games a lot will visualize really, really intensely ahead of time as a way to cut down on the amount of actual practice you have to do. Um, I think gaming, like video games, movies, storytelling, or like reading novels, getting into a play together, doing stuff like, interactive gaming sessions, all of these things are accomplishing the same kind of thing inside us as a human being. Now you can sort of spam any one of these to an inordinate degree where it stops actually being helpful and you can get addicted, but that's a different conversation. All of these
Yeah.
things are accomplishing something about expanding your imaginative capability because your imagination is the thing that connects you to reality. If you have a desiccated, dried out imagination, you're going to have a very hard time dealing with reality and other people and yourself, much less any conversation about faith. So, a thriving and active imagination is the best opportunity to grow and adapt and imagine and to be able to understand and to connect with what's actually there.
That's awesome. So you identified as a husband and dad earlier on. So
Mhm.
is there a dad dish that you prepare that your family loves when you break
Yeah.
out?
So with my family, my wife has a chronic illness, and so she doesn't cook, and so I do all the cooking. Um, So to answer your question, no, probably not, because I've got about like 5 dishes and I just spam those and make enough so there's leftovers because I don't want to have to think about stuff. And then it's just oatmeal and sandwiches, and then spaghetti is probably a big one I do. Okay, maybe I've got a couple that I'm particularly proud of that I've made, and I think they're pretty good. And my wife's a massive foodie, and so she's actually very pleased at, oh, that smells really good, even if she can't eat it. But I do a chili that I think is, I like it. Um,
Beans or no beans?
Oh yeah, all the beans I can get in them.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I use a 7 types of beans when I do beans. So
Oh, that's cool. I think the highest I got is four, really.
yeah, chili. I've won some cooking competitions with that, including at
Oh
the
wow.
beating the fire department at the Stampede. So
What's your favorite thing to go in a chili that helps it stand out?
well, there's a few hacks. Molasses as the sweetener that
Hmm.
that helps, and then it depends who you're cooking for as to heat
Hmm.
and know your audience kind of thing. So, but quite often I'll mix in some Italian sausage with the beef and
Oh,
the,
interesting. Okay.
so and
Yeah, I didn't think
yeah,
about the sausage. That's pretty good. I'll swap it out for chicken sometimes when we don't have ground beef.
yep. And
It's a good way to,
so
to just sort of grind up some liver as well and just sort of mix that in for those in the family who don't like liver. You can
I'll have
hide it
to
that way.
give that a try. What so as you know, many of our young men are struggling these days, and well, many men, but especially our young men. What wisdom would you like to share with men, especially our young men?
Mm. What wisdom to share? I think so. These are things that are true for me. Um, One is we absolutely need every man who's here. If you're here, there's a reason, there's something for you to do. There, there are no wasted lives. There are no wasted men. Now, maybe what we need to do is pick a struggle. Like if you can't be failing on everything in your life, like if you don't have a job, and if you're out of shape, and if you don't have anything that brings you life or motivation, like a hobby or something. If you're like down three for three, then you got to pick one and fix that. That's what makes you dateable material. It gives you self confidence. Pick any hobby, do something that you love, and get good at it. Um, if you can balance that with a good job, if you can balance that with a good health, that's the kind of thing that other men, other people, your community can depend on, your family can depend on, a woman can depend on. So I try to balance all three of those and try to get really good at those. I think that if we can change our attitude towards how the culture works or how life works and realize that basically everything is a game, and you can learn to play it. And sometimes you can, you know, it's like you can land in a game with bad points and no cards and no armor or something. Well, what are you going to do? Like nothing? Well, that's the point. That's the challenge. Who are you if this was a movie and you were a character in a movie or a story and you started with nothing? What do you do? Do you just roll over and do nothing? I don't even think you like the idea of watching a movie with that character in it. Um, what would be the most interesting and boldest thing you can do? And I think this it's true because it's how I live. I don't think men sacrifice for an ideal very successfully. I think we sacrifice for people. Um, find a human face that you can sacrifice for, that you can take responsibility for. And even if it's not maybe completely accurate or true, in that it's somebody else, it could be a family member, it could be, going down to the local soup kitchen. It could be just somebody who needs help, maybe a neighbor. Okay. Don't just work towards an ideal that just suits you. Find somebody else who needs help and then volunteer to help them. Maybe until you get really good at doing that. And then what some of us can do is then turn that into a marketable skill and get paid for it. The value of serving and sacrificing for another person is that it gives you focus for your energy, for your activity, because we men are fantastic, or can be, at solving problems. It's what we love to do. And then we like to do it with friends. And half the time we like to have fun doing it. So if you can find a good way to do good that you can keep doing, you can get better at doing it. Um, but you can't drive a parked car. You've got to do something so that you can learn, so that you can fail forward. So if you feel completely alone, as I think a lot of us do, where I live, I don't have immediate friends or family or anybody. So I work completely online. Um, that's one reason why I do a lot of things like podcasts and conversations and create my own conventions. It's to expand and grow my network of friends constantly because I don't have them immediately around me. Not just because I want to be known for being a very cool and helpful kind of person, although that's pretty cool. Um, I want to do good. I think that I have things that I can do that I enjoy doing that are helpful for me and also for others. And so do that. If you're spamming your skill set or yourself just for your own benefit, a point will come where you will get addicted and burn out because I don't know exactly how to say this the right way, so I'll say it wrongly. You're not the only reason for your own life. You're a major part of it. But you're here as part of a nifty little triangle of how to stay oriented. There's you, there's God, and there's your neighbor, which is everybody else in the human family. You will not find God or have a good relationship with Him if you're not even showing up for yourself at all. And then if you're not showing up for a neighbor, your neighbor, somebody, friend, family, wife, husband, whoever, if you're not showing up for somebody else, you're never going to truly understand God or how God wants to relate to you, and then you're never going to understand yourself. So if you work on all three, find what is the next right thing you can do. If the future feels impossible and you can't get up, just think about what is the next right thing that you can do. Because you're here to do good. I love this line, which is now the line, it's the headline on the Heroic Men website. Might change in the future, but it's a headline in my heart, which is "The soul of a man is a hero." I think we're all born to try to figure that out. And that's why men don't need to explain or justify our obsession with incredibly dangerous things like motorbiking across thousands of miles of open country, or hang gliding, or just doing ridiculously dangerous things that women look at and go, why would you even want to put yourself in this situation? I finally realized I actually don't have to explain myself anymore. This is just a point of view of how we look at the world. Men embrace and engage risk because part of what a hero does is he finds ways to overcome shame, to deal with the constant presence of death and what that means to you, and what to do about the suffering that is at present in our world. All those three things, if you can master or take the steps towards mastering or thinking about those, you start to become heroic, because you start to now understand suffering is, it's like every time you go to the gym, you put yourself through an incredible amount of suffering, but you're happy to do it because there's a point. Well, if somebody that you have chosen to love, not just fallen in love with, but somebody that you've chosen to love needs help, needs you, or needs something only you can do, you will show up at 3 a.m. and do whatever it takes to help them get the help that they need, because you've made that commitment, because you are that kind of person. With shame, a lot of us are born without everything that we need to get through life, are born without the voices and the mentoring and the kindness and the love that we have a right to as human beings, but we don't get it for all kinds of reasons. And you can ladder back the consequences through our parents didn't have it, they didn't have it, grandparents didn't, whatever. Well, it's a bit like that line of matches, and there's the one match that sort of ducks itself out of that line to stop the rest from lighting up. You are needed for who you can be, not just in your family line and tree, but for your friends, your community, for yourself. Can you not be shackled by like your own embarrassment, your own shame, the fear of being cringe? Maybe find a quiet way to do something good that nobody's going to notice, but you're going to see. Maybe one other person will see. Build a little confidence. And if you don't have any confidence about anything, get evidence. Keep doing and stacking the small wins until you believe, oh, I've got this. I can do this. Because you've got to believe that before you can go and ask anybody else to believe that you've got this. Before you want to get married to somebody else or date somebody else. I was an absolute, I look back at myself when I was dating my first girlfriend. I was not ready to be dating. I didn't have any right to be dating that girl. But I wanted it and I thought I was ready for it. I didn't have a job. There was nowhere that dating process could have gone that was practical. I had nothing to offer her. Okay, now she was probably a bit immature too, just as I was. But I look at that and realize my advice for myself would be totally different back then. It would have been, if you've got nothing to offer, you can't ask. So you pick a struggle, whether it's like your health or your career or your work, or a hobby, something that you're passionate about. Because what men do is we bring life and we give life to others, and we help, like bears, we create dens of safety for others. We build arcs. I love this thought. Men build arcs. When you walk up to a guy and you start to become friends with a guy, you should have the sense, I think, this is what I want to do. I am safe with you, and we're going to do cool stuff together. I've got you and you've got me, and God's got everything. I think that's how I want to live. I think that's what I want on my tombstone. It's like you walk around like the neighborhoods and you'd see these signs that's like, God's got this. And like, what needs to be on the back of that sign as you walk past it? It should say, and I've got you. Because that's how it's got to work. God's got us and I've got you. And I'm going to trust that you're going to get me back. And here we are talking about brotherhood, which is what Heroic Man is all about. I think, but it's a pattern for life.
That's awesome. And a couple things, like you talked about, if I can break it down a bit, is that love your neighbor as yourself denotes that there needs to be self-love. And then on a healing retreat that I went to, there's the lies that we believe from the evil one about ourselves that we have to get rid of.
Mhm.
And then at the beginning, you talked what I would equate to what we call strength-based approach. Like, don't work on the stuff that you're going to fail at all the time. Work on
Mhm.
the stuff that you're good at, build it,
Yes.
and then start moving out as a
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
So I want to thank you for taking time today, Dominic, out of your busy schedule and joining us. And I don't know if you know, but the Gaelic term for whiskey is Ishkabaha, which means water of life. And I
Nice.
pray that you continue to lead many souls to the true water of life. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in the pub for this episode of A Dram with Friends. Go to heroicmen.ca to see what we do in this mission, and you can donate there to support stuff like A Dram with Friends. Please like and subscribe on all your YouTube and podcast platforms to help us grow our audience. Thank you, God bless, and have a great day.